Yeah, huge news out of the Sydney Swans and also Perth today. Another COVID-19 breach. It's going to cost the Sydney Swans $50,000, $25,000 of which have been suspended. So Elijah Taylor, who's played 4 games this year for the Swans, has been suspended for the rest of the season for breaching COVID-19 protocols, both from an AFL perspective and also from a Western Australian government perspective. So what happened is Taylor and his partner hatched a plan to get her into the hub and into the quarantine accommodation at Joondalup Resort in WA. They may not have considered how to get her out. So they were caught and now they've been sanctioned. Now, it's really important to understand as well that this $50,000 sanction, $25,000 of which has been suspended, is the first one that will be included in the 2021 soft cap. So after what happened with Nathan Buckley and Hawthorn and several other clubs a couple of weeks ago, the AFL put in place these guidelines. So this is going to hurt the Sydney Swans as well as hurt Elijah Taylor, who won't play again for the rest of the year.
Wow, this is huge news and perhaps the worst breach we've heard of.
Yeah, well, it is. It's just, the young man has made a massive mistake here, so he's going to have to live with that now. And Tommy, I'd like to know actually from you, is Elijah now, is he still there? Is he still with the Sydney Swans, or has he been put somewhere else?
No, he's isolating at the moment away from the Sydney... he's isolating in the resort at the moment, but he's not able to have any contact with any other teammates or anyone else as well. So I think a really important point here as well is that it's the WA government that has set in stone these protocols. So if you compare it to Nathan Buckley, for example, he broke the AFL protocols, but he wasn't quarantining from a state perspective at that point. And when you break the government protocols, the WA police get involved. Now, I understand there's going to be no further penalty, but the WA police force, they've released a statement tonight as well. So there's plenty going on from an AFL perspective and from a health perspective. I can just tell you as well what his manager, Tom Seckle from Hemisphere Management, said to me just a few moments ago. He said, Elijah is very remorseful. He has fully cooperated with the AFL, WA Police and the AFL. He will have to be accountable for his actions and is disappointed. He will strive to learn from this mistake. So clearly they're caring about Elijah's welfare, but the Sydney Swans aren't happy. The AFL is not happy at all. And clearly when the WA government gets involved and you break these strict protocols that are extremely clear, they're going to come down hard. That's exactly what's happened tonight.
And so the Swans are going to pay for this fine because we started to see a trend happening where those who were responsible for the breach were paying for the fines, including Nathan Buckley and his tennis match. Yeah,
we don't know who's going to pay for the fine at this point, but what I do know is that the Sydney Swans are considering sanctioning Elijah Taylor even more. It won't be a financial sanction further than what already has been impacted on the player and the club, but there is a chance that Elijah Taylor could have some sort of sanction from the Swans beyond what we already know. So this is far-reaching. The Swans aren't the first club to be involved, but I agree with you, Kath. This has to be the worst breach of the COVID-19 protocols yet.
Geordie, what would you be saying to him if you were a senior Sydney player?
You do the crime, you pay the fine. Yeah. I don't think if you are silly enough to do that and bring someone in that you clearly know is wrong, you've got to front up the bill. I just think you've got to have your head under a rock to understand that it's not right. And the breaches that have already been made and the money that is still at stake for the AFL and the clubs, and then for that money to go into the soft cap next year, that can cripple clubs. If it keeps happening on a consistent basis, I think if you do the crime, you pay the fine.
Jordan, can I just interrupt for 1 second? So even though Elijah Taylor might not be on any more than $70,000 or $80,000 this year, half of which he's getting paid because of the situation with the AFL, would you still make him pay $25,000?
Yeah, I think he can pay it in instalments. Maybe it's not the full whack, but the club would help out and maybe pay the initial fine, but there's got to be some sort of accountability from the player, not just, oh, I'm sorry, and we move on. I know he's been suspended for the year, but it's not good enough.
You mentioned the welfare as well, Kayla. I think that's important to understand also, because we used to make a small mistake and you feel like the whole world's coming down on you. This is a big mistake, and from what Tommy said, he's isolated in his own room at the moment and things like that, and I'm sure the Swans are looking out for him, but no one's allowed to make contact with this young man as well also. So there's that aspect that we've got to be really careful, I think, as well, because he's isolated by himself after a huge mistake. So there's a little bit in this.
100%, but there's also a big difference in playing a tennis match and sneaking in your girlfriend when you know you shouldn't.
Yeah, when you know it's wrong.
Yeah, that's right. You know? And look, as his manager said, he was going to accept full responsibility for it. And now he'll need a bit of support behind that as well, just to manage this whole situation, especially if he's by himself.